All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right. I'm so excited today. I have been waiting for this interview for a long time, just because I am so excited about the guest that we have today, Mr. Jose Escobar. And you are going to love him as much as I love him. And when we just think about folks that care about others, a lot of things that we talk about on this podcast often is about relationship and how important relationship is, and making sure that we begin with relationship. I know you guys all know I went to the Trust Leadership Conference, and for a lot of days and a lot of these times I used to talk even more about trust and what does it mean to trust somebody, and what does it mean to kind of start with that. Like, if you don't trust somebody, then you can't have a relationship. So even though that might come first, but once you get to the relationship part, it gets even, then you're actually trusting the person, right? And it gets even more important that the closer you get to somebody, that I believe the more opportunities that you have. One of the things that you said to me, Jose, not too long ago is your network is your net worth. And so when we think about the people that are part of a relationship with, that we talk to all the time, that we spend time with, we get to do that. And so I am part of a group that Jose is the CEO of, which is the Connected Leaders Academy. And hopefully we'll get to talk a little bit more about that. But what a thriving organization that I've been able to meet some of the best relationships I've ever had in my life with. And so we'll get to talk about that. But like always, I get to ask our guests to talk about their story. And Jose, your story can begin anywhere in life that you wanted to. It's impossible to get it wrong because it's your story. But if you made it up and your mom hears it, then she's the one that don't know that you made it up, because I wouldn't know that you made it up. But of course, why would you do that? Why would you make up your story? And most people don't. But it's amazing. And I know you talk to folks all the time, but I'll have guests that are like, I'm nervous about telling my story. They're like, you can't. Well, I guess some of the shame or something some of us feel sometimes, and some of the things that we did, that could be a nervousness. Or I've never told it before, that could be a nervousness. But as far as like getting the facts right, I hope that they're not nervous about that. So I'm going to give you the floor. Take as long as you want to do it, and then we will chop it up right after that. So thank you for being on. Thank you for taking your time today. Jose is a dad, and he's got dad duty, and he's taking his time away to be with us tonight. So thank you so much for doing
that. Excuse me. Well, I am just coming over whatever it was. I lost my voice at a Commanders game against the Broncos of all teams. And then from there, I had this cough, so forgive me for that. But in terms of a bit about me, first of all, Dr. B, I'm extremely grateful to be on your show here. Thank you for having me as a guest, and just really honored to be a part of this plethora of so many tremendous leaders you've had in your world on this podcast, I guess retroactively. So I'm just excited to be a part of that, I guess alumni at this point. So, but in terms of my story, Jose Escobar, founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy and the Entrepreneur's Bookshelf, two companies that are thriving and scaling and growing. And I'm happily married to my wife, Katie, and she's actually in Arizona right now with my son. Went to go visit him in college, and she'll be back with him tomorrow for the holidays, which we're excited to have him back and complete our family of, family of 8. So we have 6 kids, 1-year-old down up to 18-year-old, 3 boys, 3 girls, and very much a family man. My whole claim to fame and my story, and I'm going to give it to you as efficiently as possible. First of all, where I am today, and then I'm going to go backtrack. I built a 7-figure business in 15 months 4 years ago. And when I say 4 years ago, I mean January 15th of 2026, it'll be officially 4 years. So I'm close to 4 years in business. Everything I built was 100% organic. No website, no SEO, no paid ads, no funnels, no automation tech or CRM or AI or podcast or YouTube channel, and 0 emails went out because I had an email list of 0. So everything I built within those 15 months, from 0, no business, to having a 7-figure plus business and growing, is all based on organic marketing relationships, because I'm a relationships guy. Now, also know in terms of what I do within my companies, I'm a coach, one-to-many with courses and programs. I do one-on-one high-ticket consulting as well. I'm an author. I'm a 22-time published author. Many are international bestsellers. Some of those are bestsellers, and some are just books that are published, right? And I wrote one of my own, which is called Winning the Day, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Morning Evening Routine Mastery. And I co-authored 21 other books with influencers. I'm also a professional speaker. I travel the world and the country. I speak on stages an average of once a week, every week for the last 4 years, going on 4 years. And then I have a community called Connected Leaders Academy. That community, of which we're blessed to have you, Dr. B, as part of that. We have 571 paid members as of today in all 50 states across the entire country, in 36 international countries, growing every single day. It's really just a great place to be. And I also host events, in-person events, live events all over the country, to the tune of about 20 events a year between virtual and in person. And then additionally, on top of that, I also have anthologies where I charge people to write chapters in my books, and a couple other moving parts. So I say all of that to say, in terms of my story, right? So this is where I am today, and the future hasn't been written yet, but I'm going in the right direction. That's for sure. We're scaling and we're growing. I now have a team of people who support me, but everything I built for the first 2 years, I did it on my own with no help. And like I said, organically, right? But retroactively, going back to the very beginning, where did this all start? I didn't wake up this way. It didn't start this way. It progressed over time, and I was able to do some cool things. But historically, I'm first generation, born here in the U.S. My parents are both from Guatemala, Latin America. So I speak, read, write Spanish, and love that cultural background of Guatemala. And I can tell you, when my parents came to this country, they were in their early 20s, no English, no money, no connections, very little education. I think they had it was somewhere between a 9th and 10th grade education when they came to this country. And they figured out how to make it happen. They clawed their way up, working really hard, making things happen, making no excuses. And they had 4 young boys, right? Imagine being in this country with none of those things that I just mentioned, in that situation, raising four boys and trying to prosper and make things happen. So it was, I understand poverty. I understand what it looks like to not have money, but I also grew up in an environment where there were 3 things that I learned primarily from my dad and my mom. The first thing is God, the relationship with the Lord, having strong faith. That is one thing I learned from them. The second thing I learned from them was the family values, the importance of family, and loving, how to love your spouse, how to love your children, the importance of family, and how to engage, and what it looks like to have family values. And the third thing I learned was hard work. And hard work, there's no substitute for that. I don't care how talented you are, hard work will always be talent when talent refuses to work hard. And my parents were hard workers. I saw them claw their way to the top, whether they were crawling, running, sprinting, walking, whatever it was, scratching their way. They figured it out and they made it happen because they made no excuses. So those are just 3 things I learned. There's many things I learned from my parents growing up, but that's what I learned. And I grew up in that environment. It was initially 4 boys and with 2 bunk beds in one small little apartment room, and beans and rice and those kind of things. But we always had food over our head, or food in our stomach. We had a roof over our head. We don't have food over our head. We had a roof over our head.
Yeah.
We had all the things we needed, right? Just at a very minimal level, right? But again, when you have the right pieces in the home, you don't realize what you're missing. I never really truly understood that we were financially strapped, right? I just understood that we didn't have everything everybody else had, because we had faith, we had love in the home, and we had all those moving parts. So that was a fantastic piece of the journey there. Fast forwarding, in elementary school, I was a class clown. In middle school, I was a troublemaker. And then in high school, it just continued to progress in the sense of how do I explain it? Where I was the guy throwing the house parties, right? I was doing all kinds of things that I shouldn't have been doing, right? I was always a galvanizer. I was always bringing people together, whether it was for positive or negative, whatever it was. I was always doing those things. So that's kind of the foundation of how I grew up. It was positive, and then it was negative, and then it got worse and worse and worse. I graduated 2 years late from high school. I consider myself to be a super duper senior, right? I wasn't a senior. I wasn't a super senior. I was a super duper senior, right? And then from college, I went to college for like 4 years and didn't walk out with an associate's degree. I was just spinning my wheels and yeah. So I don't have that diploma on the wall. I don't have all the accolades and the certifications, and I didn't come from money. I didn't come from anything special. It was just, you know what? I was like, man, like this is just not for me. So I was into Salesforce very quick, very early on. I always had a job since I was, I don't know, 15 years old. And I was always working and I was really good at working hard and selling. I have a natural this ability to connect with people. I'm a natural connector. I'm a relationships guy. I love making friends, and I have tons of friends. I've always had friends, right? And I've always been a leader. I always had positive or negative ability to lead, right? I always said if I really wanted to, I could probably run for president and win. If I really wanted to, I could probably be the leader of a mafia. Like in any direction that I go, I feel that I have the capacity to go high in any kind of direction that I decided to go. So I said there has to be a way to tap into this stuff, right? So it wasn't. And by the way, I've been locked up multiple times, overnighters. Not so much like extended stays, but overnighters because of fighting, because of drama, because of bar fights, you name it. I have in multiple fights. I mean, I can't even count how many fights I've been in, from house parties to bars and things like that. I was a knucklehead. I was a wild character, right? I was playing the field, womanizing, not necessarily cheating on women, but I was just playing the field, doing my thing in that space, and you name it, and I was doing it. And the only thing I didn't get into was drugs, thank God, right? I never got into drugs. I never got into anything that was a point of no return. Right, never got into weapons or anything like that, but I was definitely a fighter and I was definitely a troublemaker. And eventually, it got to the point where things improved, and I ended up meeting my wife. Her name is Katie. She's from Frederick, Maryland. I'm from Montgomery County, so 2 different counties, same state, and we met, and the rest is history, Dr. B. The rest is history. We got married. We have 6 kids now, and from the time I got married, I started really like shaping up. I said, I can't keep living this lifestyle. I got to start manning up. I got to like act my age. I got to start doing. I was, full disclosure, I was living at home until I was like 31, 32 years old, Dr. B.
Okay.
Who does that? Who does that? Well, I do, right? So I did that. And because I was comfortable, because, that's just in hindsight, I was like, man, that was hurting me big time. And I don't blame that on my parents. I blame that on me. That's an inside job, right? Yeah. Could they have kicked me out? Sure. But and so I look at my life and I'm like, oh my gosh, so much wasted time, so much wasted time. And with all the talents and the skill sets that I have and have been growing over time, I could be, 10, 20, 30 steps ahead of where I am right now. Don't get me wrong, I'm doing really well, but I could be really, really, really well if I would have started sooner and applied myself at a in a better way. So that's really what it's been about. And along the way, even while I was being a knucklehead, I have always been a personal development junkie, right?
Okay.
I have literally hired so many coaches and mentors. I have paid for courses and programs. I have had books coming to my doorstep for years from Amazon, because I'm a big reader. I've listened to podcasts. Love your podcast. I've watched all kinds of YouTube videos. I mean, you name it. I've been in so many rooms. I lost track of how many physical rooms I've been in for seminars, boot camps, masterminds, conventions. I mean, you name it. At 18 years old, I was in Amway. I did really well in Amway. I was in network marketing. And the tapes and the books and the standing order and all that stuff that happened in Amway. I had great mentors who poured into me. I learned a lot from the tapes and the CDs and reading the books. So I always knew better, but I just lost my way and was doing dumb things, but I always knew better. So I was the kind of guy who was like, I was going in circles, right? One time I have 2 auras, right? Sometimes I'd be like on it, personal development, making things happen, But then I started acting up and going crazy. So I kept just spinning and spinning and spinning and never really getting ahead. So until I got married, until I had kids, that's when everything changed. And it got to the point where I was serious about things, and I got into the corporate arena. I was in management in two different banks, and then from the banking world, I got into life insurance, and then from life insurance, I got into property and casualty. And great career, 18 years, suit and tie, 9 to 5, four walls, but there was a lot of red tape. So eventually I said, you know what, I want to go to the martial arts field. I ended up getting a job at an educational funding company here in Chevy Chase, Maryland. I helped a lot of people make a lot of money in the martial arts world. And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, I'm good at sales. I'm a good marketer. I'm good at building relationships. I'm well connected because of all the personal development, all the rooms I've been in forever. And I also know I'm a good coach. I'm a consultant. I know how to help people make money. So I said, well, the people I'm helping, their income is doing this over time, and my income isn't moving. So then it hit me, the epiphany, the lightning strike, the time shift happened. And I said, Katie, to my wife, I said, I got to start my own business. And then sure enough, I decided to start a business. And that was January 15th of 2022. And everything took off. It took off like you wouldn't believe. But let me backtrack for 1 second before I end this backstory of me. Right now, leading up to that time period of January 15th, 2022, leading up to that, I had invested thousands and tens of thousands, if not six figures, on personal development for many years, for at least a decade of Katie and I, beating each other's worlds. And I have spent so much money. And my wife was always telling me, she was thinking to herself, oh my gosh, Jose just bought another course. Oh, he bought another program. He has a new coach. He has a new coach. Oh my gosh, I wonder how much he spent on that coach. And there's a new box here from Amazon, 3 books he just ordered. Oh, that's wonderful. And so it was one of those things where she's like, Jose is always spending money on trying to improve and do all these things. And he keeps talking about this business that he's going to have one day and how he's going to change the world. And we're going to be a multi-million-dollar family, traveling, living a lavish life, and impacting and creating nonprofits and doing charity work all over the world. And Jose has these grand visions. He's such a visionary. He's such a dreamer. And he's putting his skin in the game because he's invested in all these things and all the coaches and mentors. That's amazing. But she was always noticing that I wasn't actually doing anything in terms of the execution of everything that I was learning. So it wasn't until I think it was January 1st or January 2nd of 2022, before I actually started my business, where she sat me down. And get this, Dr. B, are you sitting down? Yes, you are. I think you are.
I'm sitting down.
She said, Jose, we need to talk. And when she said, we need to talk, I said, oh my goodness, what is she going to tell me? I swallowed, that spit that was like a bitter pill that you're swallowing. I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder what she's about to tell me. Did I do something wrong? What did I do? Whatever, because she started off that way. I sat down with her, had a very stern, serious conversation, and she gave me the sandwich method, right? The compliment, the message, and then the compliment. And she said, Jose, listen, I respect what you're doing. I appreciate you. You're making things happen. You're a go-getter. You're a dreamer. You're a visionary. You're always looking to provide for your family, and you're looking to really do us well and position us to win. And I respect all of that about you. But, and then she said, but, and I said, oh dear. She said, but at some point, you got to start making money. You got to start in this business that you have, because all I had was an LLC with a bank account with $25 in it. That's what I had when it came to the business. I didn't actually have a business because I had no product or service I was actually selling and making money on. I just had a bank account that said it was, my business name, and that's what it was. And I had that for a couple of years before I actually had a business. So she said, at some point, you got to start making money. She's like, I get that you're doing all these things with the idea of one day doing something, but you haven't done it. You haven't done it. And all this money, the tens of thousands of dollars, probably six figures that you've spent on all these things, we could have gone to Disney World with the kids. We could have had a few savings accounts going on. We could have had these 501 or whatever those things are called for college education for the kids. We could have had investment accounts. We could be doing all these things with this money that you're just putting into all these things that isn't actually coming back to us. So at some point, something has to give, Jose. And listen, if you're not going to do this business, and you're not going to actually execute on these things, just leave it. Just leave it and be the best employee you can be and be all in on your career. And whatever you do, Jose, I know you're going to be the best at what you do. Whatever you do, I know you're going to crush it. Just be a phenomenal employee. There's nothing wrong with just having a career and doing that. Just be all in on that. So that stung and it hurt. And I didn't want to hear it from her, of all people. And I accepted it. I didn't rebuttal or complain. I went for a walk. I had a cigar. I journaled. I meditated. I prayed. I did all the things for a whole day. And then I came back to her and I said, you know what? You're right. Thank you for telling me that. I'm going to do something about it. And from that day, I created a plan. I got my whiteboard. I brain vomited. I said, what am I passionate about? Where are my skill sets? What am I good at? And what does the marketplace need? And I combined all those three things, and the Connected Leaders Academy was born. The Entrepreneur's Bookshop was born. And would you believe that within 2 weeks, it took me 2 weeks to create the entire business of what it was, everything I needed. I launched in 2 weeks from idea on a whiteboard, just to get it out of my mind, into an actual business. I launched. And it cost me no money. And from there, within 30 days, I had 100 paying members in my community. I had a course that I had launched that cost me no money to launch. And I was in business. And we blew up. And in 15 months, I surpassed 7 figures. And my entire life changed. And now, again, this is the beginning of the next level. So I am excited about it. I am thrilled. That is my backstory. And because people look at me today and they're like, oh, yeah, he's probably second or third generation into wealth, or he probably had all these, tremendous accolades because he got these high level degrees, or maybe because of the people that he knew that positioned him to win, or, oh, he just came out the womb as a phenomenal salesperson, which is not true. Like, people will say all kinds of things, but the reality is I simply believe that I can be the best at anything I put my mind to. I have a big vision. I work harder than just about anybody I know. I am consistent. I'm extremely disciplined when I'm focused on whatever it is I'm getting done, and I'm committed to anything that I commit to. If I'm in, I'm in. If I'm out, I'm out. But I don't poke anything with a stick. Those little differentiating factors are foundational principles that if anybody has them and they apply them, they can change their lives too, wherever they are today.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So much to unpack there when we think about your whole life story and the things that you do. And for those who are watching this, I would hit the pause button, write some stuff down. When Jose puts his fingers up and goes like this, I'm telling you, those are the gems that you need to follow. But I want to kind of reverse back a little bit into the identities that you had. I mean, you talked about your parents and instilling God and values and work ethic and that working hard into you, but it didn't stick. Doesn't seem like it stuck right away. Like, those were in there, they're in the background. I saw them, they were examples, but I'm just going to hang out and do what I want to do for a while. And it seems like there were some ups and downs where your identity might have even changed, even to the point where your wife set you down and said, wait a minute, who are you and what are you going to do? Because you need to go make some money because you're spending a lot of money. You're being educated. And that might have been just because you didn't finish at schools and that kind of stuff, and you wanted to pour into yourself. But at some point, you have to take that education and use it. How did you develop those identities throughout time where there was just enough in there to keep going?
The secret sauce is we should always have mentors in our lives, right? And or coaches. You should always have mentors and or coaches. And I have been blessed to always had a coach or a mentor. And in many cases, both, right? A mentor is somebody who will coach you for free. A coach is somebody you got to pay to get the results, right? So I've had mentors and coaches, sometimes separately, sometimes at the same time, but I've always had that. And people are like, oh, no wonder. Well, no, because I had to seek them. Do you think they fell in my lap? The answer is no, right? I had to actually develop the relationship, and ask for the help, right? Too many of us are too good to ask for help, right? So I had a mentor who once told me, again, goes back to mentorship. A mentor said, Jose, in all things give thanks. Remember, this too shall pass, and never be afraid to ask for help. He said, if you apply those three principles to your life, you will be blessed, right? And I have applied those, and I always ask for help when I need help. We all need help because guess what? We're all working on something. None of us have arrived. I don't care how good you are at something, there's areas where you're not so good at. And that's where the coaches and the mentors come into play. Now, again, why is that important? And how did that shape my identity? Because I have blind spots, just like everybody else. And a mentor and a coach can make you see your blind spots, can make you realize what you don't realize. Sometimes we don't know that we don't know. And that's where people come into play and say, no, Jose, you're on the wrong track. It's over here. No, Jose, that's a great path you're taking, but that ladder is leading on the wrong tower. It should be leading on this side over here, right? Or, hey, you know what, Jose, you're doing it right, but not completely. If you just make this little tweak, it's amazing the difference it can make, right? Hey, Jose, listen, if you're going to walk through a minefield, follow somebody. Hello. Right?
Yes.
So this is really the stuff that it comes down to, is what allowed me to shape my identity over time to become what it was to where I am now, is because people always poured into me. And I was always receptive.
That's huge. That's huge on the receptive part. When I think of it was just dawned on me because I've coached track now for almost 38 years of athletes. And, when I coach hurdlers, because that's something that I did, I can coach from the perspective of what they're seeing, because it's different from me standing on the sideline and watching them do hurdles and working on mechanics and, where to do the trail leg, where to do the lead leg. But if I can get into their mind and say, oh, I know what it looks like to take 7 steps, lift your leg up, come over the hurdle. When you're thinking about the coaches and the mentors you have, you need both perspectives, right? You need somebody who can see big picture as well as somebody who can see perspective. How did you go about finding those mentors and coaches? Because you alluded to, I had to find them. They didn't just show up. Nobody walked up to my door, knocked on it, and said, "Hey, Jose, I want to mentor you today, or I want to coach you today. Will you let me?" So how did you find it? Must be different people for different areas. What did that look like for you?
So I can tell you, you'll find a coach or a mentor anywhere you look, right? If you're in high school, guess what? There's a guidance counselor. Hello, right? I love saying hello because people always say that to me, right? So a guidance counselor. If you are on a team of some kind, there's a coach already there, right? If you have an older brother, that could be a mentor. If you have a friend who's older that pours into you, that's around, that's already achieved a couple things you want to achieve, that's a potential mentor, right? And I can give you story for story to story. If you were, so I'll give you an example. When I worked at Liberty Mutual, I was in the Liberty Mutual space, in property and casualty. My mentality, wherever I worked, I would say, who is the most successful person working here right now? And I would seek that person out. And a big shout out to Ross Porter. Ross Porter is a guy who was working at Liberty Mutual at the time when I was working there. And I said, okay, and I was asking around. I was asking people on the floor, who's the most successful person here? Who's crushing it? Who's the go-to? Who's the person to beat? I asked people different questions, right? And all the arrows pointed to one person, Ross Porter. And I ended up talking to him, and he didn't sit too far from my office. And we spoke, and he said, yeah, I've been here for 29 years, whatever it was, 30 years. And that was like 45 years ago. So he's like, I've been here since he started 45 years ago. He's like, I've been here for a long time, and I'm about to retire in like 5 years. And he's been retired now. But he said, I was like, man, you're amazing. I was like, do you enjoy smoked old fashions? And he's like, I do. And I said, I'm going to treat you to one. We should go out. Let's get a smoked old fashioned. I'll treat you to a drink. And he said, sure, why not? Right. And I treated him to a drink. And that one drink was the beginning of our relationship. He said, hey, anytime, man, if you ever have any questions, let me know. And of course, guess who would approach him to ask him questions? Me. And I asked question after question after question. And then eventually he realized, hey, this guy's hungry. This guy's thirsty. This guy wants to learn. This guy's coachable. This guy's receptive. I'm going to look after this guy. And he's trying to hook me up. And I invited him to lunch a couple of times, brought him a coffee. Every now and then I'd come in with Starbucks coffee for myself and I'd bring him one, right? Those little, I nurtured that relationship. And to this day, we're still really close friends. I see him like twice a month, right? For like either a happy hour or lunch or a coffee or something. We're still close to this day. I can tell you story after story after story after story of people. I have pretty much coaches and mentors from any place I've worked at, from any team that I was a part of. I have coaches and mentors. If anybody's ever done network marketing, there's an endless list of mentors there and coaches. And any company I've been involved with, from even from Amway days, I still have those people in my life. If you work somewhere, I promise you, when I was at the animal hospital, I was a veterinary tech for 2 years. There was Dr. Mel Davis. Shout out to him. And he loved Madden football. And I enjoyed Madden football. You have to find common ground. You have to find a hot button. What does this person like that I like, that we can kind of, have conversations about, right? And he's a Commanders fan, and so am I. So we started talking about that. And would you know that eventually he had these Madden tournaments at his house, and he was the medical director for that location. And he invited me to be a part of that whole thing with his buddies that are all older guys. These are all like people that were 15 years older than me at the time, right? And I was in a room with successful people. Again, key word, I'm looking for the successful ones so I can learn from them and see how they behave and see what they do and how they talk and what they talk about and where they go. And so I was always positioning myself around people that were way more successful than me, that I could learn from, like a sponge, right? I was like that fly, that annoying gnat that wouldn't leave these people alone. And then sure enough, eventually when he had season tickets to Commanders games, and he said, hey, I have an extra ticket. Do you want to come? Like, heck yeah. Right. Because he saw that I was hungry and I was thirsty and I was always asking him questions. And so that's the key. And guess what? He's the one who painted a vision for me to one day have season tickets, because I dreamed about it. I said, man, one day I would love to have season tickets like this guy, to club level, all out, the way he had it, full access. One day I would just love that. And would you know that to this day, I have 5 of those same tickets of my own. Right. And because I position myself to be around the people that can put these visions inside of you, people that you can learn from, people that will guide you, people that will coach and mentor you. And then and I can tell you countless stories, Dr. B, on all of the coaches and mentors and how I got them. And people tell me all the time, Jose, I just don't have money for a coach. Find a mentor. Stop making excuses. There's plenty of people who want to help. You just got to open your mouth.
Yeah, this question, this is the first time I've asked this question because I just thought about it. Because you've had so many mentors and you've had so many coaches and people that you've sought out, as have I. But how somehow in all those folks, there were some probably not so good coaches for you and for your personality. Somebody that you saw that was successful, but then you went up to them or you talked to them and they were just wrong for you. How did you know that? And I mean, you still learn something from them. And that's why I want to make that point, is even if it's a bad coach, you learn something. But at the same time, how did you know and then move on to somebody else pretty quickly in that time frame?
So foundationally, the easiest way that I would learn and know is if their values are out of alignment with mine.
Ooh,
As soon as that coach or mentor would take me somewhere and roll up a blunt and say, "Hey, man, let's smoke together while we're talking," right? As soon as that individual would take me and get blasted, on alcohol, and we're having a couple drinks, and I drink. I'm not gonna act like I don't, but like, this guy's wasted, right? And that's outside of what I'm looking to do, right? Or this guy is cheating on his wife and is with me and tells me, "Hey, man, let's go to the strip club," or, "Hey, let's go." You see that? Hey, look at that chick right there. I was walking by, right? And starts doing those kind of things. As soon as the alignment of values, morals, and ethics, and what I deem to be my moral compass is out of alignment with this person, I know automatically it's not for me. right? So the easiest way to know is this person, when it comes to morals, ethics, foundations, virtues, principles, are they in alignment? And if something is out of, not so much strategy or technique or what they did and how they're teaching you, or even their personality, it's really the value systems that I look for.
Man, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and we were talking about an individual that we knew. That was what you were saying was, always talking about, he has everything separate from his wife. And we said, and the reasons why is so we could go to these events. When he went to these events and he would hook up with other ones, we're like, well, there's no way we're spending more time with this dude, and why would we? Even though he might have some of the aspects of life that we want or we think we want, because we don't really know how he got it and what he does with it is just so far away from the belief system that I have that I didn't want any part of it. One of the things I love to ask my guest is about faith and about how faith played a part in their lives. And I know you're a man of faith and a man that seeks God as your parents did. But what impact has that had in your businesses and the things that you do and how you do things? Sometimes we try to separate it. I don't think in our lives we separate it, but when we get on shows like this, or we just don't talk about it. And I would love to hear your perspective.
In terms of what I've taken away from my father, you're saying?
No, your faith, your faith in God and how that's impacted how you do business, how you do family, how you being a dad, all of that.
Yeah, so it's quite simple. It's actually, life is very simple. That's why I say all the time. We are the ones who complicate things, right? But the recipes, the roadmaps, the things that we need are all there laid out for us, right? It's just a matter of, are you coachable? Are you humble? Do you have the ability to follow direction? And unfortunately, many of us don't, right? We get in our own way a lot of times. So for me, growing up foundationally with the principle of faith and the importance of faith, that's the driver for me. That is what holds me and sustains me when I'm weak, when I'm distracted, when I'm tempted to do something inappropriate, when all the things that can easily derail anybody, I filter everything I do through the lens of, is this what the Lord wants from me? Is this in alignment with my faith? Is this going to potentially hurt my relationship with God? Right? Because at the end of the day, the way I see life is my only purpose in life. The reason why I'm even on this earth is to love, honor, and serve God. Again, it is that simple. The reason why I'm here is to love, honor, and serve God. That's why I was created. Now, there's other things outside of that, but that's the number one most fundamental piece that I have learned. And if I honor that, then everything else is going to run smoothly. It's when I'm out of alignment, with that relationship, all of a sudden I'm like, why are things so off? Why are things not happening? Because I am out of alignment. So if you look at my order of operations, you look at my calendar, you look at my day-to-day, the first thing is God. The second thing is my wife. The third thing are my children. The fourth thing is my health and wellness, making sure I'm not letting myself go. And the fifth thing is my business. Business is number 5 on the list, not number 1, right? So, and then you have all the other things, the social life, right? The extracurriculars and fun and sports and activities and you name it. There's many other things, of course, but those are the 5 things. But if you notice, everything starts with faith and it starts with the relationship with the Lord, because God is love and love is God. And you can't give what you don't have. And anytime there's a hole in somebody's heart, I'm telling you right now, that hole is a God-sized hole. And I learned that from Matthew Kelly. The hole that is burning in people inside of something that is missing is a God-sized hole. Nothing can fill that but God.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing that. Oh my gosh, that's so good. And then I think about the personal development and the books that you must have that help you not only enhance your relationship with God, but enhance your relationship with fellow human beings. If those are your values and your goals. Lots of books behind you, that we're listening to. And I think about personal development. If you were to begin to mentor or coach somebody, and you think about personal development and what they have to do and the amount of time that a person needs to spend, are there a few key starter points that you just bring out? This is my go-to book, The Alchemist, or Magic of Thinking Big, or something like that, that you go to in order to start a person off on personal development.
Yes, 100%.
Right.
Matter of fact, you already named one of them. And one of them is not readily available here because I just loaned it out. Okay. No, I gifted it out. I never loan. I gift books. All right. So one of them, the first book that I would hand anybody is Think and Grow Rich. I'm sorry, not Think and Grow Rich. It is The Magic of Thinking Big. Dr. David Schwartz, I think it is. Right. So that's the first book that I would hand out because people have to think bigger. Right. They have to think bigger. We're thinking way too small. The next one I would recommend is No Excuses, Brian Tracy. Right? No excuses, because too many of us suffer from this disease called excusitis. We're making excuse after excuse after excuse, and the only people who care about that is you. Okay, so excusitis, no excuses. The third book I would recommend is The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma. Right? The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, all about, waking up at the appropriate time, having that proper morning routine, having that proper structure to your day, and how you do those things, right? Super, super important. And then if I had to recommend two more, which I always recommend at least 10, I would say Make Your Bed. And this is Admiral William H. McRaven, Make Your Bed. And then, of course, I would throw my book in there as well, which is all about morning routine and evening routine, right? A lot of people talk about morning routine, but they don't talk about evening routine. So Winning the Day, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Morning Evening Routine Mastery, I would say, hey, you got to read that book too. But those are just a couple that I would start with.
Yeah, and I love that because it's the books that you just talked about are mostly books about I got to change myself internally, and I got to change who I am before I can even begin those relationships. I think of Gary Chapman's book, The 5 Love Language, which is about how you interact with other people. But at the same time, you're saying, wait a minute, when you start this thing in personal development, you got to work on you first, and you got to learn who you are. Are there, because most of all those books have some really good YouTube videos, for the folks that aren't used to reading and used to, I think about the Make Your Bed book and how many times I've watched, Admiral's, video when he's doing his speech on making his bed and how it's important to get out in the morning. What are some of the other things that you did that you think made those, you read, but then there has to be some action in there? So how did you read and then figure out how do I take action based on what I read?
Yeah, so I'll start with this one book that I just showed you. So this is Robin Sharma 5 a.m. Club. If you look inside of the book, first of all, there is an index in here that I create it's my own index for the book, where I put in all of the most important key points in this book that are worthwhile, right? So if I go to page 53, for example, it says voluntary discomfort. That's what I put here. So if I go to page 53, it'll say voluntary discomfort. So it says here, Epictetus, one of my favorite philosophers, wrote, "But neither a bull nor a noble-spirited man comes to be what he is all at once. He must undertake hard winter training and prepare himself and not propel himself rashly into what is not appropriate to him. Voluntary discomfort, whether by dressing, as I did, or by fasting once a week, or by sleeping on the floor once a month, keeps me strong, disciplined, and focused on the central few priorities my life's built around." Just an example, right? So there are certain things I like. There's plenty of little sticky notes in here. There are dog ears on the end here. There are the big tabs, which are the main key takeaways. It's not about how many books you get through. It's about how many books get through to you. Right? So I don't just read books. These books are well read. There's a big difference. People say, oh my gosh, Jose, how do you find time to read 1 to 2 books a week. You must be a fast reader. I'm like, no, no, no. I'm actually a very slow reader. And I also read books really well, right? From beginning to end. So it actually takes me time. The difference is that I make the time to read books, right? I create the time. We don't find time to read. You know how many people have told me, oh, Jose, yeah, it's because you have time to read. I don't have time. Do you know how busy I am? Right? Being a good husband, a father of 6, running 2 businesses with multiple income streams, taking care of your health, all the travel I do. Do you think that I have nothing but time? No, that's completely false. The difference is I manage my day because I manage myself, right? It's self-management, not time management. And I create time to make what is a priority happen. And for me, reading is a priority. Reading is a non-negotiable. Reading is a daily carry, just like my wallet and my cell phone.
There's so much in there I want to talk about, but as you're doing the dog years, just as I want to understand, and you're putting in your marks, you take the time to do that. I mean, you have something you said, I'm going to write it down. I'm going to put the index. I've never seen anybody do the index before where like I wrote something in this book and then I actually went to the front of the book and wrote down what page it's on and had a little snippet about it. Is there like, would you suggest a smaller book like Who Moved My Cheese or something to practice doing the dog ears and stuff, or just start with a big old book and go?
If you start with one of those books, it has to be a personal development book. So nonfiction, personal development, that's what I recommend. Something like, it doesn't matter the size of the book, it just matters the context of the book, like what is in the book, right? So I wouldn't do The Alchemist because that doesn't have that much, it's more story driven, right? But I would say something that has nuts and bolts. Anything John Maxwell, I don't care how thick it is, just pick up a John Maxwell book and start with that because there's a lot of golden nuggets in there. And to take it one step further, something I do that most people don't know is I do what's called commonplacing. If you look here, this here is my commonplacing piece. You see this? There's 3x5 index cards that I file away every single night in my evening routine. I file away 5 takeaways from that particular day. And these are all things I might have taken from a magazine, from a mentor I was talking to, from a podcast that I was talking with you and you said something and I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. Or I was talking with a client or with a prospect or with anything that I was, it could be something I saw on TV. It could be a podcast I would listen to, a YouTube video, a book I'm reading, a magazine like Fortune or Inc., whatever it is. If there's a golden nugget, a statement, a quote, a thought, an idea, a stat, a story, anything, then I do these things. I put them on index cards and I file them away by category. So whenever I do speaking engagements or I do a podcast or I do whatever, and I know what it's going to be about, or I'm writing a chapter in a book, or I'm writing a chapter for an anthology, whatever it is, I know what categories to pull. And I have quotes, stats, stories, poems, all kinds of things that I can just take without having everything up here. It's filed away for future use. This is historically called commonplacing. People like Marcus Aurelius back in the Stoic days did it. Ronald Reagan did it. Some of the greats out there, people that are absolutely crushing it in business do it, right? So I'll give you an example of just one thing. For example, here, this is something that's one card that I just had here that I just filed away. And there's a category. The category is productivity. So it says right there, the category. And then it says where I got it from, a website. So I got it on a website. The website is Forbes.com. And the name of the article was Time Management and the Power of 1440 by Kevin Kruse, right? So I can give appropriate credit if I need to mention it somewhere, right? And then I wrote down what I found that was most interesting. So it says here, he printed 1440 on his wall as a constant reminder we only have 1,440 minutes a day. Great reminder of the value of time, and we need to invest it wisely. Time is our most important asset. There are 86,400 seconds a day. We don't focus on the seconds as much as the minutes because the seconds slip away easily. How could you change your life every day if you truly felt your 1440 minutes, right? So this is a very simple concept. You know what I could do with this? This could be something that I include in a chapter in a book. It could be a talking point in my next speaking engagement. It could be included in a podcast interview like right now. It could be something that, for example, I mean, you get my point. I can keep going to example after example example. My point is, it's just so powerful to do this, but nobody really does it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And it's part of that, if that night routine that you probably don't go to bed without doing and recapping your day. And then it gets it out of your head. You probably sleep better
Yep.
because you're not trying to remember. I mean, there's so many times I'll wake up and think of something in the middle of the night. And then instead of getting up and just writing it down, I'm trying to like put it into my dream or try to remember it or try to, and then get up in the morning and do it. I've since put a little pad by my bed. But at the same time, what if I emptied out all those gyms every single night? What a great concept. Kind of one more thing that I wanted to ask you about in this thing called time, and you started bringing it up, but there's so many people who now it's kind of a joke, and Sifu and I talked about this. Another guy that's in the Connected Leaders Academy that is just amazing. But somebody comes up to you and says, "I have a long day," and then you want to say to them, "Longer than mine," because we all have the exact same amount of time in our days. It's just how we try to utilize it. And there's so many things that I start looking around and say these are time wasters. Not that I don't need entertainment. You love the Commanders. You love your kid. I mean, it's not like you're just sitting here in a book reading all the time. And you said you manage yourself. So, what are some things that you would say are things you found that maybe were time wasters, or just learning the concept of how to utilize my time better?
So time wasters, I can tell you a couple of them, and this may be for some of you, it may not be for some of you. I'm not going to tell you that it's a time waster for you. I'm going to tell you it's a time waster for me, okay? Because I don't want anybody getting upset listening to this podcast, right? But what I will say is simply, for me, time wasters are playing video games, right? Are going to sporting events that have nothing to do with your interest level, just for the sake of going and spending the time. Time wasters are going to every happy hour you're invited to. Time wasters are going to the movie theater multiple times a month, more than you need to, right? Time wasters are putting your feet up every night and watching Netflix. Time wasters are watching non-productive YouTube videos and just sitting there like this, like growing roots on the couch watching YouTube or whatever it is that you enjoy, reality TV shows, right? Time wasters are um, doing anything, essentially, in a nutshell, doing anything that is not going to move your needle personally and or professionally. Now, let me be clear on this. Is it okay to have time wasters in your life? Yes. You know why? Because we're human and it's okay to have fun and it's okay to put your feet up and relax and do that. You're not less productive if you do that. You just have to have discipline to know when it's game on for that and when it's game off for that. Right? The problem is we commingle way too much and we end up doing more of the fun things than we do the things that are meaningful. So for me, it's about removing the time wasters. It's about knowing that every minute of your day counts because you cannot get your day back. When it's gone, it is GONE, capital letters, exclamation mark. It is gone, right? So we have to understand the value of our time, and we got to put it to the best use. And that is an inside job. Nobody can do it for you. You manage your day, and you manage you.
Those 1,400 minutes can go so fast and not think about it. And if you're intentional about, oh, this is how I'm going to spend my time today. And I know for some people, it's taking the big items first, get that out of the way, and then give yourself more time to do stuff or reward yourself with time when you have done something that you've done. So thank you for that. Man, we've already been talking 55 minutes and I want another 2 hours, but I know you got kids and all that kind of stuff. What didn't we talk about? I was selfish in my questions. And because I want the repetitiveness of hearing again. So I'd watch this over and over and over again if I were you. What did we talk about, or how do we get a hold of you? Those things that might have missed that I didn't ask in my questions.
The main thing I would say is one thing we didn't talk about that I think is important to know is success and defeat in anything is at the end of your own arm. Okay, so you have the ability to create the life that you want. Too many of us are waiting for the external to show up so that we can internally feel the way we need to feel. No, you got to act your way into feeling, not feeling your way into acting. It's the other way around, right? So you have to have that internal drive, the internal motivation, the internal desire, burning desire to say, hey, you know what? I believe there's more in this life for me. I believe I can achieve A, B, and C. And you have to go for it, right? Stop waiting for people to believe in you. Stop waiting for people to give you permission to do something. You have the ability to create the life that you want today. And it starts today. It doesn't start tomorrow. It doesn't start, you can't, too many people are hanging out in the past. Oh, do you know how great I was? You know what I used to do? You know what I've achieved? Like, that's awesome, but you're only as good as your last performance. What are you doing today? What are you doing today? What is that next level? You haven't arrived. I haven't arrived. None of us have arrived. Arriving isn't a thing. This is a journey, not a destination. So it is important to know the principal, fundamental things that are going to lead you to success in life. And one thing that we didn't talk about that I want to mention is the importance of nurturing your marriage. If you're
Thank
out,
you.
if you're out there and you have a business and you want to go to levels that you dream about, right? You got to have the right home front team lined up, right? You got to have the spouse that's going to push you, that's going to motivate you, that's going to support you, that's going to encourage you, that's going to question you, that's going to do all the things, right? That's not the end all be all, but that's what you aspire towards. And the only way that's going to happen is if you don't treat your spouse as a trophy on the wall, right? Too many of us are like, oh, look at what I've achieved. Look at that trophy over there. It's on the wall and it collects dust and it gets old. And eventually you'll move it behind some books and it just becomes a thing. Oh, yeah, I'm married, so I'm good. No, marriage is step one. Then you got to nurture it every single day. You got to choose to love your spouse. You got to choose to show up for that person. It is full out commitment because so many people decide they're going to do one thing today and decide they change their mind tomorrow. You have to be committed to your spouse. You gotta like love on this person. You gotta know how to love this person. I do something called marriage meetings, and there's a great book. If you want to look up the book, it's called it's here somewhere. It's called Marriage Meetings for Lasting Love. That book is one of the secret sauces to my marriage because we talk about the things that are uncomfortable. We talk about the things that we want to hear, like, you know, why do you appreciate me? Why do I appreciate you? We talk about our schedule and being on the same page. We talk about planning our week and our month and our days for fun. We talk about all the things that are required. But the problem is, too many of us are not pursuing the things we need to pursue at the highest levels because the home front isn't right. And the home front requires attention. So stop giving the world everything that you have and forgetting about your significant other. Stop giving your kids the best of what you have and forgetting that, hey, the person who's going to be with you forever is going to be your spouse, right? At the end of the day, when all the kids move out, right? So that's something that I just wanted to, if somebody out there is going to receive this and be like, I needed to hear that, because that is a separator between a lot of success and failure places. So that is my final thought. If anybody wants to connect with me on any level, I can tell you I'm very easy to find. I'm not that hard to find. Jose Escobar, you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. I primarily live on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram and LinkedIn, but my main hub is Facebook. 99% of what I do is hanging out there. You can check out my website, www.connectedleadersacademy.com. If you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, you want to scale your business, go to another level, you want to be around amazing leaders that are changing the world, and just be in that environment to help you scale more podcasts, more stages, referral partners, more clients, more money. I mean, you name it. Reach out to me, check out my website. You can book a call with me straight from there.
Thank you so much for today. Thank you for just, your willingness to be vulnerable and tell your story and all the things that have happened, and then the gems that you gave us. This is your first podcast and you just heard one of these. Hit subscribe, notification, because there's so many that are so good. I would love to ask you to, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot because you can tell me no later if you don't want to do it, but I would love to have Kate and Renee on and just do one on nurturing marriages. I don't know if she's ever wanting to come on the podcast and stuff, but when we think about our spouses and what we pour into them, I would love to hear the other side of how they're receiving it. And I know both my wife and your wife understand that we spend extra time to make sure that we're nurturing those relationships and that meet and talk about that book. So I'd love to have that happen. Folks, please go ahead and hit the pause button and listen and go back and rewrite it, because we just had 1 hour of some fantastic, wonderful, brilliant gems that you can take to the bank with you. This isn't going to be our last conversation, the last one that I have with Jose online, but it's one that you can take with you. Go out and get some mentors. Go out and get some coaches. Go out and read some books. Do the things that you need to do to become that person that you are absolutely meant to be. And so I don't want you to forget that you are God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to. And I cannot wait to see you on the next one. Jose, do you have one 30-second closing thought for us tonight?
Complexity is the enemy of execution. I'll say it one more time. Complexity is the enemy of execution. Get out of your own way. Stop complicating things. Life and business. It is very simple. It just requires belief, laser focus, discipline, hard work, consistency, commitment. It is not hard, folks. Take massive action. Do it today. Whatever you want is at the end of your own arm. You are capable. You can do it. If I did it, you can too, as they say on the cooking shows. Thank you so much. God bless.
I love it. You guys have an amazing, awesome, incredible day today.